My name is Sharonda Grandberry, and I was by 4 guys that I thought were my friend when I was a teenager. So it was one summer. I always go stay with my grandmother. I lived in Georgia with my mom and my stepfather at the time. And my sister and I and my little brother, I'm the oldest, we would always go stay with my grandmother and do summer activities. So one day we wanted to go to the swimming pool. And we went to the swimming pool and I had my little sister, my little brother, and my cousin at the time with me. And we were having a good time. And I saw some neighborhood boys that I thought were cute. I really thought they were cute. And I knew them, they were friendly guys. And I didn't have a reason to fear them. I didn't have a reason to be afraid to talk to them. And I was asked by one of the guys, at the time I didn't think nothing of it. They said, "Hey, let's go to the store." And I'm like, "Okay, sure. As long as we come back, to get my cousin and my sister and my brother, I don't mind going to the store." So I rode to the store with them, and I thought we were just going to the store, or we were going to the area and just come back. Well, they got alcohol while we were there. And I didn't think I was going to partake in drinking some alcohol with them. I just was in the car with them. And I thought it was cool. They was like, "Come go with us." And I was trying to impress them because one of them was cute. I thought one of them was cute. And I was 13, going on 14. And when I got in the car, they did like a dare, "I bet you won't drink. I bet you won't, do this." I'm like, "That's not gonna hurt anything. We're going right back." And in my mind, because this was high in the afternoon time when we went, so in my mind, I thought, "Oh, we'll run over there. We'll go do what we got to do, and then we'll come right back." That didn't happen. So I did take the drink, and by the time I realized that we were going farther and farther away from the swimming area, the swimming pool, that's when I knew something was not right. And so we pulled up to this abandoned home. By that time, the little alcohol that I had drunk kind of kicked in. I'm young. I never had the experience. And so we went to the store. They either got the alcohol at the store or either had the alcohol in the car. That's the part that's kind of hazy. But I know we went to the store and they had the alcohol. So most of them were my age. I know that the oldest one is about maybe 6 to 7 years older than me. I forgot when I added the neighborhood boys. Only 3 of the guys out of the 4 I knew. One of them I didn't even know. And so, but I didn't feel any fear. I didn't feel any, danger. I think I was in the car for about, I don't know, it had to be about 30 minutes. When we arrived to the house, I wasn't sure what was happening because, like I said, the alcohol had started kind of taking effect. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? What's about to transpire? And I get nervous. I get a little scared at that point because I'm like, they're just saying, "Hey, we got to make a stop. We're going to make a stop." And I'm thinking, okay, we're making a stop and what's going on. And so we go into the house and that's when the sexual stuff started. I'm trying to get them off me and I'm trying to fight by myself. And the older guys just standing there as the younger ones attack or force themselves on me. One of them tried to have me suck his pee. And I tried to bite. I was still struggling, and I guess they didn't want me to struggle and all that stuff. And alcohol had started to kick in, and they took me into the room. And this room, it was very dark. I remember the walls looking orange, and it was just a mattress with no sheet, no cover. It was a dirty mattress. It looked really, really bad. And so at that time, all of the struggle and all of the fight and everything that I had within me, because I'm still trying to fight them off, I couldn't fight any longer. And so I stopped fighting and I just laid there and I just let tears roll down my eyes, and each one of them proceeded to come in moment after moment after moment. And I remember saying, "Please put on a condom," because I was so scared. I was scared of STDs. I was scared of getting pregnant. I was coherent, but I was going back and forth, even under the influence, I was going back and forth. So each one of them got on top and did their thing. And the last one, I didn't. To this day, I do not know who he is. And I don't think he used any. Like he went in and just he just kept with me. So I don't know how long it happened. I do know it was like 2 in the afternoon or maybe 1-ish, 2-ish. And I didn't get home until like 9 o'clock. So they did whatever they wanted to do all day, basically. And when it was over, I remember one of the guys taking me to my grandmother's house and getting me out the car and walking me up to my grandmother's house. At that time, I had on somebody's shirt. I didn't know where my underwear were, and I had on a pair of pants that didn't belong to me. And when I got to my grandmother's house, she came to the door and she said, "Where have you been? Where have you been?" And she was screaming. And I remember saying, "Grandmama, I'm sorry, Grandma, I'm sorry." And so I walked down into we have like a little den area, and there was cement stairs there. And I laid on the cement stairs and I cried in the fetal position because by then, the influence had wore out. And by then, my body felt what had happened. And I didn't know exactly what to do or who to tell or where to go. Or was it my fault because I got in the car? I blamed myself for a lot of years. I called my best friend the next day, and I tried to tell her, and I was very scared, and I was very worried that what if I contracted an STD? What if I'm pregnant? And she talked to me, and I told her, and I said, I don't know who to tell. And so I ran and I got the phone book. We had phone books at that time, and I looked up the crisis center, and I was going to call the services crisis center because I just didn't know. And my mom and I didn't have a good relationship when I was younger because of the things that she went through, and so we didn't have a relationship. But my best friend, she said, "You're going to have to tell your mom." And I said, "I can't tell my mom. I'm afraid to tell my mom." So she convinced me to tell my mom. And when I told my mom's response was, "That is what your fast gets." So from that moment on, I locked everything up. Everything that has ever happened to me, because if my mother could say something like this, there's no way no one in this world could possibly care for anything that happened to me. When I joined the military, I ran into one of them. He was walking in the neighborhood, and at that time, I'm 18, almost 19 years old. This was the first time that I've saw any of them since the incident. And so he's walking the neighborhood, and I'm coming home from my first duty station. He says, "Hey, can I get a ride?" And I have my car. And at that time, no one knew that I used to go in my grandmother's trunk, and I would carry her little 22 pistol with me when I came home, because what has transpired in my life caused a seed of fear. I would always think that I, had to have protection, or I need to be protected. And so he came over to the car, and I said, "Sure, where do you need to go?" And I am shaking inside because I'm like, he didn't even address what happened, or he didn't say anything to what happened. He walks over to the car and he gets in, and I have that little 22, and he didn't know I had it because I kept it on the driver's side next to the door panel, the little spot there. I would have my left hand on it. And so he gets in the car, and in my mind, I'm thinking, if he reaches over here and touches me, I'm going to blow his brains. I'm driving with one hand, I'm driving with my right hand, and he's sitting in the car just talking and just talking. We get to the location, and still sitting, I wasn't going to get out the car. And he says, "Hey, can you get out the car?" And I'm like, okay, this is testing me. But it was a well-lit area, and so because it was a well-lit area, I was okay with getting out the car. And I got out the car, got to the back of the car, and he looked at me and he said, "Sharonda, what happened to you should not have ever happened. You are too nice of a person. You are too kind of a person for that to ever happen to you." I said, "Thank you," and shook his hand. And when I got in my car, I clutched the steering wheel so hard and screamed so loud and shook it so bad that I thought I could have taken it off the car. And so I've been just working for that, and now I just desire to share my story so that people will know it's not your fault. This incident affected me in my teen years. I don't even think I had teen years. It feels like I had to become this mature person really fast. I didn't share, but behind this, at 16, I was kicked out of my parents' home on the streets per se for a short period of time because I had already been signed over to the military by my mom at 16. I didn't have a team. I mean, I had memories in high school, but this particular event affected it because I had to suppress. I had to suppress it. I had to hide it. I had to cover it up. I had literally had to act like it didn't happen. My father had committed suicide when I was 5 years old. And so my mother remarried when I was 13 years old to my stepfather, who she has divorced since. I didn't have a strong relationship with my mother growing up because of her pain. And what she revealed to me just a year ago was that she went out on a date with my father and they had an interaction. The interaction was not warranted on her behalf, but it happened and I was conceived. And then they later got married. And so she said she resented me because of that, in a way, because when I came about, my father showed me love. He absolutely loved me. And the love that he showed to me, but not to her, she said she was very resentful of. Most children look to their mother for guidance and protection and affection and wisdom. I sought that and I found restitution in my grandmother. I believe I'm the woman I am today because of my grandmother. To say that I had a relationship with my parents at all growing up, it's just like the cliche saying, hurt people hurt people. My relationship with my siblings, when I graduated, the day I graduated, I met my half sister on my father's side for the first time in my life, and I have a relationship with her. My sister that grew up in the home with me, I have a relationship with her, and then I have a baby brother that my mom had by before she got married, and I have a relationship with him. It's typical sibling things. We may argue here and there, but they're not strange at all. And I'm thankful. And prior to, I want to say right at age 30, I healed and I started mending a relationship with my mom. And so now today we have a great relationship. The relationship with my mother now is because I went from a broken child to, a woman that walks in healing. And it's only because I went through the therapy. I began to talk to my mother and she began to reveal to me of the broken pieces of herself as well. She was just in a dark place, and the things that were done to her, my children, helped kind of mend that relationship. Because if I had not had my children, I would not have, had to ask my mother, because I was still in the military. My twin daughters were 8 months old when I had to send them to her and ask her to watch them while I took care of military stuff for her. And so they got to bond with her. And so having the twins there and then me and my mother interacting, and for a long time, when I would go home, me and her would get into all out arguments, like full blown. We were at each other for a long time. And then eventually we both kind of just started our own healing journey, and were able to grow in that. And I will attribute to my children, her keeping my children, and the love that she showed. She's a different woman to my children than she ever was to me. And so seeing her love and nurture on, and she's very protective of them, kind of made me say, okay, take a moment and see your mother. That day, I don't know if my grandmother really found out what happened before she died. My grandmother knew something was wrong, but she could not put her finger on it. I may have told her, but my grandma was such an angel that if you tell her something, she's not going to condemn you. She's not going to hold it against you, and she's not going to make you feel like it was your fault. And so, because for a long time, I felt like it was my fault. It was my fault that I got. Here you have this child, because like I said, I went into the military when I was 17 going on 18. And so I'm trying to explore the world and get away from everything that had happened and just learn new things. And so I got married really, really young. So I got married when I was 21. I got pregnant around the same time. So the marriage and the pregnancy happened around the same time. And so I remember one episode, I got stationed in Germany. And I don't know, I was, young marriages, you go through things. And so one night, I was laying in the bed and I was just having a moment, and we had an argument. And so I had the moment, and he didn't know what was going on with me, and he didn't know he had triggered me. It was something he said, I believe, or done. I can't remember, but he triggered me, and when he triggered me, that's when I began to shaking and screaming, and that's when I revealed to him. And he had to make me realize it wasn't his fault, and I had to understand that. And so, but on in the military, I was very cautious around men. I was very careful around men, and I didn't ever place myself in situations that could be compromising or that I couldn't get out of. And I always carried some sort of weapon to protect me. I'm still learning to deal with triggers. And so now I take a deep breath and I say, I'm not what happened to me, and I have to let it go. Understanding that it's okay to feel the emotion, but don't have the outbursts. I would have outbursts, or I would be real, real angry, and no one would know why, because I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody. And so therapy, meditation, and prayer has really helped me heal through the triggers and to understand, okay, Sharonda, you're getting triggered now. So now I can internally, talk to myself, try to calm down and say, this isn't a reflection on you. This is just what's going on right now. Take a moment and breathe, and don't get so upset about it. Carrying something so traumatic at a young age and having to hide it and having to not openly talk about it and still having to put on this smile in front of the world has affected my relationships. Some in a positive way and some in a negative way. Because I believe people are drawn to each other, sometimes I will get people that have been through the same thing that I have been through. And sometimes we can work through there, but sometimes there's people that, don't think like me and don't want to do the work, or do not want to heal, or however you say it. It's caused some good relationships to end. I think most of my relationships have gone really well, but some they didn't go so well. All of my children have graduated high school. All of them are in the August will be attending college. My twin daughters, they decided to follow their own path and do their own thing, and they're playing catch up, I say. But I love them, and they're more on the entrepreneurial side. So I give them grace. They didn't have the traumatic childhood, so I get it and I understand. I was always trying to chase an achievement to make up for the things that I, didn't have as a child. But my son just recently graduated, and he's going to start college in August. And one of my daughters has my 2-year-old grandson. I'm excited. I'm excited. Life is good. Life is good. I'm finally being able to open up, being able to talk, being able to tell my story. So I have a image consulting firm, and it's called Pink. That's my favorite color, Pink Throne Styles. Throne is from, I believe that we are king of queens, and so Pink Throne Styles is the name of my business. And I love helping women, and then I do men as well. I love helping women uh, believe in themselves, not only from the outside, but on the inside as well. So I give them affirmations, depending on the client. I try to get the feel for the client. I give them affirmations, and I size them up, and I give them and help just a beautiful look on the outside. But if you work with me, we're not just going to deal with the outside. We're going to deal with the inside too. My advice would be to let it go if you can. Find strength. It was not your fault. The incident was not your fault. The incident happened, but it's not who you are. We go through these things so that we could tell our story, share our story, and no matter how painful our story is, it's to heal and to help other people.